Keir Starmer stood in front of the Commons and tried to explain the Peter Mandelson situation. And he was grilled by MPs, and rightfully so. However, it was this from Diane Abbott that stole the show.
Dame Diane Abbott. Sorry, Diane Abbott. The
Prime Minister has gone on at considerable length about process and procedure. But ordinary people don't really care about process and procedure. They want transparency, and they want to know that they can have confidence in the words of elected politicians, like all of us in this chamber. On the question of Peter Mandelson, it was in the 90s that Peter Mandelson had to resign from the cabinet for the first time because of his dealings with the millionaire Geoffrey Robinson. It was a few years later he had to resign from the cabinet for the second time because of his relationships with the billionaire Hinduja family. Peter Mandelson has a history. Peter Mandelson has a history. And what this House wants to know is why, knowing Peter Mandelson's history, going back now 30 years, and given what has been known, it's one thing to say, as he insists on saying, nobody told me. Nobody told me anything. Nobody told me. The question is, why didn't the Prime Minister ask?
Mr. Speaker, in relation to her question, let me be clear. I should not have appointed Peter Mandelson. As soon as the further revelations came to light, I asked the Cabinet Secretary to review the process so I could be assured about the process. He wrote to me on the 16th of September, setting out the conclusions of that review and assuring me the process had been followed properly.
What a brilliant question. Curtis, I just wanted to get your reaction to Diane's questions.
Ooh, I tell you what. Oh, she absolutely annihilated him, didn't she? Really good stuff. And do you know what? I felt like this was something that was very cathartic. You know, Diane Abbott has been treated appallingly by the Labour Party, especially by Keir Starmer, like disgustingly. And usually when, very few left-wing MPs are left, right? But when they say something against Keir Starmer, Keir comes up with a snarky jibe. Doesn't seem very snarky there, does he? Because Diane Abbott perfectly explained to Keir Starmer, which, in fact, what we all knew, is that you can't play naive with Peter Mandelson, because it's not like that Peter Mandelson had a clean record and then until recently he was dodgy. We all knew how dodgy Peter Mandelson was. I mean, Diane Abbott perfectly explained there how Mandelson was sacked repeatedly in the shadow cabinet. He's had dodgy dealings with extremely rich people. When it comes to his link to Jeffrey Epstein, that was apparent for years. Years. There's images of them together way before Keir Starmer even joined the Labour Party, let alone become an MP. We knew that. Yet Keir Starmer still pushed for him to have a role and made him ambassador of the US. So even if we accept he had no idea, his hands are not clean. He still chose to bring in an extremely politically toxic person. Not just politically toxic, just generally toxic. I mean, his nickname was the Dark Prince, or Prince of Darkness, whatever, you know. And you do not bring in someone who's friends with a paedophile. Like, I can't believe that we're saying this, but rule number one in politics is there's certain scandals, things you could probably get away with. Paedophilia isn't one of them. And if you're going to appoint someone who was like even vaguely close to the world's most notorious paedophile, absolutely do not have him in Parliament or have him in your government. Yet he'd done that anyway. Now, of course, he wants us to believe that he had no idea. Now, look, we've heard contradicting evidence. We've heard evidence or at least sources from people saying that the Foreign Office worked on Keir Starmer's orders or understanding, that Peter Mandelson was definitely wanted. And then, of course, we heard the official narrative, which is that Keir Starmer and David Lammy had no idea. I still find it incredibly hard to believe that a low-level civil servant would make that kind of decision, especially about Peter Mandelson, and not tell Keir Starmer. That's absolutely crazy. But I think what Diana says at the end, which is great, which is that it's the fact that you didn't ask the question. Why? First, let alone why did you want me in the first place, as I just laid out. But just why are you not questioning this man? Why are you not saying, why is Morgan McSweeney pushing this guy on me? It's absolutely crazy. Of course, yes, he was grilled at PMQs. And by the way, he said he was going to have his angry eyes on today. He's going to be really furious. He still looks completely flat. I mean, it is wild to me that this man is still Prime Minister. I don't know how he hasn't gone yet. And he vows to stay until the next election. He's going to get absolutely destroyed in May. And to be honest, there's no replacement. I've always said that Wes Street was the one who tried to be his replacement, but he obviously had issues with Peter Mandelson. He had to bring out his messages, his private messages with Mandelson, right? And I think that's kind of sort of pushed him by the wayside. But also the fact that he only won a seat by 500 votes against Liam Mohammed, which, by the way, I hope Liam Mohammed runs again and fucking eviscerates Wes Street, because I absolutely despise that man. But yeah, there's no other replacement. But I think if Keir Starmer doesn't go for this, he can literally do anything, can't he? And he'll still be protected.